Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here to fulfill a request to talk about this box, which is still available, the Ozawa Warner recordings, the complete Warner recordings, of which there are really quite a few. It's kind of cool, actually. There's some wonderful stuff in here, and there's some less wonderful stuff in here, as you might imagine. The set contains 25 CDs, and covers the gamut of Ozawa's entire career. His relationship with Warner was somewhat patchy. It began with him and the Chicago Symphony, actually, the same thing as it was with RCA in his early years, where he made some really first-class recordings. And then there was a hiatus, and then he took over I believe, the Orchestre de Paris, right? We're going to get in here, and we'll talk about that. Let me see, one of those orchestras. Yes, the Orchestre de Paris, there they are. And he made a whole pile of repertoire, mostly French, but not exclusively. Then there were some Boston recordings with Irado, and also for EMI/HMV back in the day in his later period. And so they're all in here. And like I said, they run the gamut from really, really good to really, really, really not as interesting. Let's see what they are, shall we? 25 CDs is not unmanageable, at least. It's not bad. So you get, as usual, well, here it is. It's your typical sort of budgie clamshell box here. And you have a little booklet, little bookie. The bookie does not have a track listing. It just has a, hagiography, appreciation of Ozawa. And then we just snag the CDs here, put this someplace where it won't fall all over the place, and let's take them one at a time. All right, Scheherazade, yes, and the Polovtsian dances, or the Polovetzian dances, whatever you want to, call them, the Polovetzian dances by Borodin. So many of the world's best loved melodies were actually written by the great masters, like these familiar things. Remember that commercial? Yeah, well, here we go. It's very good. It's very good. You've got Chicago. I mean, what's not to be good? They play really well. He keeps it moving. It was a well-regarded Scheherazade in its day. Then we've got the Bartók Concerto for Orchestra, another very, very good performance with the Kodály dances of Galanta. These were the recordings on which his career was built. They really were, and they were designed to emphasize his strengths. That is, contemporary music, which was certainly one of them, music that was not designed to require the conductor to emote all over the place, a little bit off the beaten path, some of the repertoire choices maybe, Russian classics, which are unkillable and sort of foolproof. These are the things that he used and got quite accumulated quite a reputation. This was one of the very best. The Janáček Sinfonietta and the Lutoslawski Concerto for Orchestra. Splendid recordings, splendid performances. Nobody knew Janáček back then. I mean, this was in 1971. Who knew the Janáček Sinfonietta? This was very, very well done. It's one of the better earlier versions of that work. A lot of conductors actually played the Sinfonietta. Klemperer played it. He didn't record it, although there are some live ones of him doing it. And Abbado did it, and George Sell did it, and they weren't really that good. I mean, they weren't raw and edgy and exciting enough in many respects. This one was one of the exceptions. It was one of the better ones. So that was really very nice. Then we had, Alexis Weissenberg, who had sort of a relationship with Ozawa. They made a few recordings together, and you'll hear others here. The Prokofiev Third and the Ravel G Major with the Orchestre de Paris. Now, Weissenberg is one of those guys who, people love to hate. He had this steely, icy sort of, he was considered to be kind of a butcher pianistically. Actually, these performances are good ones. They're exciting. I mean, they're really very exciting, and he's had an amazing technique. Whether or not you responded to his particular brand of interpretive masochism, well, that's a matter of taste. But this is one of his better records. You may recall he recorded like Beethoven Piano Concerti with Karajan, and everyone was like, ah! So there you go. Then we have, Tchaikovsky's Fourth. Well, this is okay. I mean, it's okay. These Orchestre de Paris recordings were were somewhat diminished by the fact that the orchestra was not fabulous. I mean, Ozawa was a good conductor and he got them to play. There's no question about that. And the sonics were always a little echoey and swimmy, and dim. And he was not really. He was good in like the Tchaikovsky ballets, the more elegant side of Tchaikovsky. But when it came to like dripping sweat and emoting all over the place, well, that just wasn't his thing. And this is one of those symphonies where I sort of think you have to do that. Then we have, oh yes, Michel Baroff doing Stravinsky. This is a wonderful disc. The Capriccio for piano and orchestra, the Concerto for piano and winds, and the movements for piano and orchestra. A terrific disc of really, at that point, very unknown Stravinsky, except for perhaps the Concerto for piano and winds. But the Capriccio is lovely. I once saw Veronica Joachim play it in Baltimore under Joseph Silverstein. It was really a good performance. And the movements are in his late atonal vein, so nobody much cares for them. But an important disc when it came out and quite well done. Let's see, what's this one? Oh, this is Sibelius and Bruch Violin Concerto with the Japan Philharmonic and Mitsuko Ushioda violin. This was a recording obviously made for domestic Japanese consumption. And I'm happy they put it in here because Ushioda, yes, did I get that right? What did I say? Ushioka? I don't know. Mitsuko Ushioda, yeah. Ushioda's a fine violinist, very good violinist, and the performances are lively and not going to win any awards for, best ever or anything like that. But they're enjoyable. I mean, it's just fine. And then we've got Takemitsu, yes. And also Maki Ishii, another Japanese composer you probably never heard of. And these were all important records. I mean, Ozawa did as much for Japanese music in the West as he was allowed to do. And it was a lot. It wasn't nearly as much on disc as what he did in concert. But there's some good stuff here. This is Sogutu for Gagaku and orchestra. Yeah, absolutely. And Takemitsu's Cassiopeia, which is marvelous. It's for a percussion ensemble and orchestra. It's just oodles of fun. So this is with the Japan Philharmonic as well, and with a Gagaku ensemble and the Stomu Yamashita percussion people things there. He's playing percussion, and it's nifty record. Interesting for contemporary music fans and Takemitsu fans and Japanese music fans alike. Okay, next we have the Wieniawski Violin Concertos 1 and 2 with Itzhak Perlman, the London Phil, and Seiji Ozawa, and I don't care. I'm sorry, they're nice pieces, but I can't get excited about them. I don't care who's playing them. Firebird, the Firebird. Okay, there are two of these with the Orchestre de Paris. This is obviously a piece that he felt strongly about. His performance is quite distinctive. It's not exciting. It's not one of the ones you turn on for like thrills and chills. It's atmospheric. It's impressionistic. It's very Takemitsu Debussy-ish, actually. I mean, the Infernal Dance isn't all that vigorous. It's pretty slow, and I enjoy it once in a while as a change of pace. It's not one of my favorite Firebirds. And since he did it twice, this one with the Orchestre de Paris is okay, but we'll get to the other one momentarily. Then we've got the Tchaikovsky Violin Concerto and the Capriccio Italien with the Philharmonia and Vladimir Spivakov. Good, solid playing. I mean, Ozawa's there for the ride, and he does okay. Oh, here's a nice disc of French stuff. Carmen Suites, not all of them, but a lot of them, and L'Arlésienne Suites 1 and 2. Very, very nice. Nothing not to love. This is with the Orchestre Nationale de France. Quite good. And also with the Orchestre Nationale, we have this, Bizet Symphony in C, Jeu d'Enfant, and the Patrie Dramatic Overture. Patrie is fun. Everyone hates it because it's a bombastic potboiler. And it does. And this is because it's a French potboiler. It's not as bad as some of the other, like Russian potboilers. And Ozawa does it well. See, look, he looks happy on the cover. And so should we be. Firebird, again, the complete Firebird. Okay, this is the Boston one. And comparatively, it's a tiny bit faster. It doesn't really matter. It's an identical performance to the French one. They made it because it's digital. I mean, it was a digital recording. But the playing is a lot better. And in particular, it has more accent, more punch, which really matters in Stravinsky. And it really matters also if you're not going to take the thing at zippy tempos. The Infernal Dance in the French one is da 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 dum, da 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 da. Even I did it faster than it really is. But here it's bum 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 dum bum bum bum. I can't even slow down really to the tempo he does it, but that's I just don't feel it that way. But that's this is the better of the two, and like I said, the interpretation is individual. Whether you like it or not, well, that's another issue. Oh dear. Gershwin, Rhapsody in Blue, Variations on I Got Rhythm, Catfish Row, with that fabulous Gershwin orchestra, the Berlin Philharmonic, and Alexis Weissenberg, again, playing the piano in the Rhapsody. Yeah, okay. They did it. That's all you need to know. Contemporary violin concertos with Itzhak Perlman, Earl Kim, and Robert Starr. Violin Concerti with the Boston Symphony, an important record in contemporary violin making, and people are not recording these regularly now, so that's about as good as it's going to get. The Symphony Espagnole, and the Sarasate Zigeunerweisen with Anne-Sophie Mutter, the Orchestre Nationale de France. And yes, it's very good if you care about the Lalo, which, as you already know, drives me crazy. All 5 movements of it's formally dysfunctional. I mean, it's tuneful, but the first movement is I find unlistenable. The finale, I got trapped, as you know, playing the snare drum for a Suzuki violinist with the Stanford Symphony Orchestra. It almost killed me. All right. Oh, yeah, here's another one. Tchaikovsky, 1812 Overture, March Slav, Eugene Onegin, Francesca da Rimini, Berlin Phil. Now, this was made in 1984, 85, I guess. It was released at a time when Karajan was gone and Berlin was, trying to find a new music director, or they had found one, or everybody was in Berlin. Let me put it to you that way. And the labels were just flinging money at everybody to record everything. And this was not Ozawa's meat and potatoes. These big, bombastic Russian things were not things he should have been doing. I remember vividly seeing him do Francesca live in Boston. And I had a friend of mine come with me who I played. He wanted to know what the pieces were because he didn't know anything about it. And I played the Svetlana Francesca, which is like insane. And then we went and heard this one, and he's like, was that the same piece? Well, exactly. He's just tame. I mean, the canons aren't bad in the 1812, but he's, they're just, it's just note spinning, frankly. Then we have this Pathetique with Tchaikovsky. Now, the Tchaikovsky Pathetique is not with Tchaikovsky. It is Tchaikovsky. With the Boston Symphony. This is one of Ozawa's better Tchaikovsky recordings. It really is, because the piece itself works. I mean, no, he's not going to whip up the development section of the first movement to a hysterical frenzy. That wasn't his thing. But it's a noble performance. It's full of pathos and sensitive, and it's very beautifully done and gorgeously recorded. It's a wonderful performance. It really is. One of his best Tchaikovsky performances. Saint-Saëns Organ Symphony. Okay. From a year later, 1986, Chartres Cathedral. At least it had, the organ was in Chartres Cathedral. It wasn't in the Saal Walgram where the rest of the people were. And it's a bit of a tubby performance of the work as a result. The acoustics do things. But the tone poems, Phaeton and the Rouet d'Omphale, are nice. Very nice. And, the Orchestre Nationale plays it pretty well. I mean, Ozawa always did good French music, but remember, the reference recording, the version de référence for the organ symphony was the Boston Symphony under Charles Munch with the organ in the hall, and there was no way they were competing with that. Dvorak, Cello Concerto, and the Tchaikovsky Rococo Variations. Well, the Rococo Variations put me to sleep. But the Dvorak, this is with Rostropovich with his new cello, and the Boston Symphony, and it's his greatest Dvorak recording, I think, because it has a wonderful combination of emotional intensity and clarity, and it doesn't die because he's just emoting all over the place all the time, and it's really, really beautifully done, and marvelously recorded. So is this with the LSO at Rostropovich, the Symphony Concerto by Prokofiev, and Shostakovich First Cello Concerto. Now, of course, the Rostropovich Shostakovich was done with Ormandy, which is kind of iconic, but these are really good performances too. I mean, just beautiful performances. Perlman's American album with Boston, the Bernstein Serenade, the Barber Violin Concerto, and Lucas Foss's 3 American Pieces. Wonderful record. Absolutely wonderful record. First class. Hello, Mildred. I know. How you doing? Rostropovich, Cello Concerto is written for him by Reno Gagnon. his triptyque for cello and orchestra, and Rodion Shchedrin's Sotto Voce for cello and orchestra. I like Shchedrin particularly. He's an interesting composer who wrote lots of good music. This is also the LSO and Rostropovich. That was a good series of discs. They made 3 wonderful discs together. And then last but not least, Dutilleux, The Shadows of Time, which was a BSO commission. I saw the premiere of this at Carnegie Hall. It was the Carnegie Hall premiere. I mean, I think they did it in Boston before. But Dutilleux was there. This is only a 21-minute CD. It was issued as a CD single by Arato. And it's his usual, one of his, shimmery, beautiful, somewhat, times quasi-tragic things. The middle movement is Mémoire des Ombres, Memory of Shadows. It's for Anne Frank and all of the children of the world who are innocents. And it's a remarkable work, like everything Dutilleux wrote. I mean, it's one of his very last pieces. It may have been his last piece, or one of them anyway. But it's a beautiful piece, and he was just the nicest person in the world, and his music is terrific and very limited in quantity, but unparalleled in quality. So there you have it, my friends, 25 fun-filled CDs featuring Ozawa, and he was all over the place in this set. He was in Boston, he was in London, he was in Germany, he was in France. He was peripatetic. He really was. And there's some really good stuff and some really not so good stuff. But it's a pretty fair, I think, overview of his strengths and weaknesses. It's not obviously the interest or quality of the big DG box, which of course is probably out of print, and this is still around as of now, as of today, and so it's probably worth considering if you are an Ozawa person or if the repertoire interests you. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.